What's up, everyone? This is Marissa and Derek with Bloodlines on the 4th episode, and we've got the Necrosexual, the Cassanova of Corpses, who has interviewed Amon Amarth, Abbott, friggin' Skeleton Witch, friggin' Gary Holt of Exodus, so many more to name. And what was your most memorable?
Definitely Emile Petroza from Creator.
Oh, the Creator interview. The infamous one.
Classic.
Explain.
One of my favorite bands. I had listened to them since I was 14, and the guy gets me. What can I say? You know, sometimes they get me, sometimes they don't. But Emile had a great sense of humor. I also helped that I serenaded him with Creator coffee, warm him up a little bit from a vegan coffee shop in Philadelphia. So yeah, that's one of my favorite bands I've ever gone one-on-one with. Definitely one of my favorite interviews.
The timeless one, pretty much.
I like that, by the way, the Cassanova of Corpses.
Yes.
Yeah, we also need, just for the record, we need the famous shriek that you do on every interview. Since we're interviewing you this time,
We've been waiting for that shriek for the longest time. We were walking to get you. We were like, I want that shriek. Let's get it now.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
close-up.
This is a little bit different for me. I'm normally used to being the Grand Inquisitor, but now I get to kick back, and you guys have to do all the heavy lifting.
Yes,
but,
and no Franzia this time. No, we have seltzer water today. We keep it robust.
Yeah. I'll send my writer next time. There must be 2 boxes of Franzia at all times.
2 boxes between 2
Franzia. We weren't allowed the Franzia today. We weren't allowed to Franzia.
But yes, the origin of the Necrosexual.
Yes. Please explain the origins of this persona that you have.
So all the people watching at home, there's like somebody's definitely having like a rooftop garden party around the corner, and they just spit out their Chardonnay when they heard that blood curling scream. This is great, guys. Thank you for having me. You know, I woke up. I woke up this morning, spent this morning in the darkest depths of my grandmother's basement, and now here I am on this roof with the beautiful New York City skyline behind me. So that really captures the extreme peaks and valleys of the necrosexual experience, and there are many peaks and valleys.
And the necrosexual was born in your grandmother's basement, like the depths of the.
Of course. I mean, that's where I think every metalhead, you know, has a little bit of their soul in their grandparents or their mother's basement. This is definitely the case with me.
The truest form of metal. That's where it comes from.
So I actually want to ask you about your past interviews. Like, so what was your first ever interview? I mean, was it like in the heavy metal scene, or and your first ever with like MetalSucks? Because we know you did stuff with MetalSucks and Metal Injection. You still do. What was your first ever, and first ever with them?
Indeed, heavy metal interviews. That's the thing I do. It's not the only thing I do. I'm an entertainer. I'm a musician. I have an album out.
Oh, we're gonna get to that. Don't be jumping it over here, necrosexual.
I consider myself a Renaissance pervert, but before that, in another life, I did study the dark arts of journalism and communications, which is a very extremely lucrative field. Before jumping into music, which is also an extremely lucrative field in this day and age, where people are buying CDs and supporting local bands. But yeah, so I was just trying to find my way and raise hell the only way I knew how to, and it just so happened that In Flames was coming to town, and I haven't listened to In Flames since Horrorcole, but I was like, all right, so I sent them an email and I showed up, not too different from how I look now, and interviewed the guy, and I tweeted it, sent it to a few blogs, and MetalSucks and Metal Injection, they got me, they liked it. A lot of internet warriors were butthurt and did not like me.
As always, the posers.
Yes.
The posers.
Yes, loved by few, hated by many.
We gotta love those MetalSucks comments.
Every time.
It's good to be humble, you know? If you're trying to cater to the internet, you shouldn't be in metal. You should be, I don't know. What do they do? Instagram health blogs?
The paparazzi material.
Yeah, so that was the first one I did, and I believe it was 2012, and then a few months later I interviewed Brendan Smalls from Metalocalypse, and just from then on out, I've just continued to, pick the brains, pick the minds of the metal heads that I enjoy, that have influenced me, that I find entertaining, and see if they are willing to go one-on-one with the Grim One.
And they do. Clearly. I mean, the list goes on ever since In Flames.
Yes, I
and you
consider
picked up
myself.
a lot.
I consider myself sort of like the Joan Rivers of black metal. Like,
The plastic surgery, my dear. The plastic surgery.
Yeah, except for that part.
Except,
but
that was the fun of Joan.
I'm here to stay. I'm here to stay, and you might not like me, but I got something to say, and I'm gonna work my ass off to entertain. So.
You do. Speaking of entertainment, which I find very hysterical, this is how we met. We met at this little shindig.
That's good you remember that, because I have no recollection of that. And I was sober too. I needed a drink that night, but I was dead sober.
Yeah, he was dead sober. I was just dead. This was a little shindig known as the Revolver Music Awards, which happened back in 2016. 2016.
Pour one out.
Yeah, we're gonna pour one out for Webster Hall and that award show. May they rest in peace.
Yeah, we really kind of like placed a curse on it.
Oh, we did. It's
Now that you put that together, it was like the last black carpets, the last Webster Hall.
So yeah, RMAs, man. That's where I met you. You were in your creator costume.
I was wearing these pants. I made sure to wear my sparkle pants, and the interview is above the waist anyway. But
eyes witness right here.
For the dozens and dozens of fans watching at home, you can see I brought the pants.
Yes, there were no pelvic thrusting movements whatsoever during the RMAs. Although you probably did it for Jesse Leach, which I found hysterical. A lot of your points. You hit up a lot of people that night. You hit up,
There was a lot of names, a lot of bands. I was like, "Who are you?" And let's cut. But it was a good time. It was a good example of hard-hitting journalism when you're in the heat of the moment, and you just got to go.
To the point, yeah. You ran off with Periphery. You ran off with Killswitch Engage.
Ace Frehley.
Zack,
Wylde.
So how many interviews was that altogether in that one day?
I couldn't even tell you. I mean, that I remember. There was like 15 that I remember. There was probably 10 more that I just didn't remember. It just happened so quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was. It's not all fun and games being the most electrifying man in corpse entertainment. Sometimes you have to be on your A game. Just be ready. Rapid fire. That was truly a rapid fire.
It was. It was. I mean, you rambled off at least 20 people from that black carpet. If you excuse me, I was in that photo pit, and I was watching him completely scare people, which was hysterical to me because it was always take the picture and then realize that he's always at the end on my left side, scaring Jose Mangan, scaring the Butcher Babies, scaring
there was a lot of mixed reactions when I saw that.
Oh yeah. Oh, the best one was Doyle. Oh, when you interviewed Doyle,
yeah.
Doyle
Let's just say his last name is Frankenstein for a reason.
Yeah, he looked at you like your corpse paint was inferior to his. Like it was just like
my pecs are definitely inferior to his.
That too.
He's got the whole vegan bodybuilding thing going on. More power to him. But yes, he's a man of many gains and few words.
Yes. Touche. And the few words that really came out of that one person besides him was Ace Frehley. My favorite moment from that whole interview was when you asked him, you told him you're so happy that you brought his grandmother to the award show. I collapsed.
I mean, she was definitely the hottest girl on the black carpet, to be fair. So I meant it in a good way.
One of the hottest chicks in metal.
One of the hottest chicks in metal.
Ace Frehley's wife. It was so funny because his face, you felt the death glare. And I mean, you already have a death glare with the corpse paint and the creator shirt, but his glare right through the shades was just like, this guy is never going to be in this town again. It was like, oh shit, like this is just really.
But he also complimented my corpse paint.
Yes, he did.
I think I won him over,
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he was a good sport. He's a nice guy.
Exactly.
Well, talking about the grim one, let's get to your album. Congrats on the new album.
Yes.
So it's 30 minutes long.
It is 9 songs and 32 minutes of old school black thrashing metal that will leave your soul scarred with necrosexual mania all over the place.
And so when did the whole album start coming together, like the writing and all? I know that you have like one other person in your band too, or is it like 2 other people?
It's a bit of a necro collective. It's definitely myself and my guitarist Anthony Vigo Gabriel at the Nucleus. We have 2 different drummers on the album. Mike Chury from Basilisk, and then also Rob Pelota contributed 2 drum tracks. Rob also playing in in Retaliation, the Ultimate Carnivore tribute, and he's also the drummer of Tragedy, the all-metal Bee Gees tribute. Yeah, I mean...
That More Than a Woman cover. phenomenal.
Yeah, I love Tragedy. Those guys
I love
are
Tragedies too. Yeah.
super fun dudes. Hopefully, I get to do a show with them at some point in the future. But until then, they invite me on stage sometimes to strip, so that's the next best thing.
Yay, nudity.
Yeah. But yeah, so the music, the album was kind of in purgatory for like 2 or 3 years. I mean, some of those songs are like 4 or 5 years old. And I've just been waiting to record, and like many musicians, you're trying to find a drummer, trying to recruit a drummer. So it took a little bit of time to get that together. But luckily, we joined forces with Mike Cherry, and then, you know, I play guitar, bass, lead guitar, keyboards, vocals, and then also my old school brother-in-arms, Anthony Vigo Gabriel, also contributes guitar on the album. So we finally got it together, and now we have momentum, and we're already working on the next one. So it'll definitely won't be that long to get the next one coming. I'm hoping to have it be in the studio by the end of this year.
Absolutely. And so with Grim One, where are you guys going to be going as far as like touring? Are you coming like to New York City? Are we doing an East Coast thing?
Yeah, we're trying. It would still very do-it-yourself production. We just did a promotional, radio campaign, but we're unsigned, so we're playing anywhere, any stage we can find. Trying to do it smart. We'd love to hit up New York. We have not yet.
Possibly St. Vitus?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the biggest plug. It needs to happen. It needs to happen.
Vitus,
in those
13,
pants.
Duff.
In those pants.
I'll have a costume upgrade by that time.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, not those pants then.
These are going to be retired soon, but
Damn
better
it.
things will come. Better fitting.
The crotch has worn out. That's the way that happens.
That's actually true. You can't see it, but
yeah.
catching a little draft down here. There's some necro shrinkage going on.
So yeah, we also want to add, since we're talking about some fancy pants here, your the Grim Burlesque
Yes.
show. What's going on with that?
If you've ever seen me take my clothes off, it is truly grim. But yeah, it's another thing that I do. With Philadelphia, kind of in the interim between just when I wasn't doing interviews or hosting or doing comedy shows, and when the album wasn't quite underway yet, I'm friends with some really cool people in Philadelphia, like Scott Johnston, who's involved with the Peekaboo Review.
Special shout-outs.
Yeah.
Special shout-outs.
He ended up doing the album cover for Grim One, so he is also a Renaissance pervert, but he's very plugged into burlesque. And Philadelphia's a cool city. You have with burlesque, with music, there's a comedy, there's kind of this weird sideshow cabaret thing going on. And so that's the thing. I enjoy burlesque. I mean, it's a lot of costuming. It's a lot of practice and coordination and being good at dancing. So,
well, I know. I remember seeing one of your burlesque. It was a single ladies, and I thought that was really freaking funny because I know in the intro there's like this lady sitting there with a bathrobe and she's clicking on her channels in her recliner and stuff like that. So I thought that theme was really cool. Like, are you guys thinking about doing like other themed like stuff like that?
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely want to do some more duets. I have a couple of single burlesque acts where it's just me, and I have a couple that are also kind of on the wish list. The spank bank of burlesque I'd like to knock out eventually. But
time of my life.
Yeah.
You just have to do the dirty dancing, please. That's it.
Okay.
Except you'll be Jennifer Grey up on top like that.
Yeah, it takes two to tango. That's the thing. But yeah,
That's
but
true.
I got some fun ones planned, and it's kind of heavy metal, but a lot of the stuff, like all the single ladies, or another one I do is
Yeah. It's been.
That happens on this rooftop.
yeah. So it's heavy metal, but also it's kind of unexpected brutality. It kind of goes where you don't expect it to. So I'm looking forward to doing more. It just is one of those things. Burlesque, it takes a lot of time and costuming and patience that I normally don't have. So I just move at a very slow pace. But yeah, I will be doing that more at some point.
Well, I know in Manhattan primarily, there's a lot of burlesque places around here. I mean, I know the Delancey nightclub. They host burlesque right around the corner from his Nurse Betty, which is like a predominant spot.
Yeah.
And on occasion you'll have Lucky 13 do something like that, or Arlene's Grocery, depending on the acts that come in musically.
And it should be noted that in terms of burlesque, I will also be hosting a kind of big deal in Chicago called the Satanic Panic. April 13th at the McLean Ballroom in Chicago. So that's
the John McClane Ballroom.
yeah. But that's going to be pretty awesome. It's a pretty big deal from what I hear.
That's badass.
You know, I get to host it, so that kind of
Yes.
I enjoy hosting because I don't need to worry about choreography. I just got to get everybody's name right and.
New costume and all. New costume.
Oh yeah, you got to get a costume wardrobe upgrade in time for that. I have Anita Manhattan. Philly drag queen. You know, it takes a drag queen to make the clothes for the Grim one.
Yes.
So I'm super stoked about that, and it's going to be very heavy metal themed, obviously, with it. Satanic Panic. You should definitely check her out. Her name is Red Rum.
Red Rum. Got
yeah.
it.
It's just
awesome.
as metal as you would think.
So we're so looking forward to that. But I mean, like, aside from like interviews and stuff like that, you do a lot of hosting. Like, are you looking to do any like show hosting, like concert hosting, that kind of thing?
Absolutely, that's something I've done and continue to do in Philadelphia, New York, and Chicago a month from now. So I really do consider myself the hardest working man in corpse entertainment. Music is a thing I do, interviews are a thing I do, but I also just love to entertain people. Whether you're laughing with me, whether you're laughing at me, love me or hate me, I love the attention one way or the other, and there's something special about reaching out and touching people in the darkest corner of their souls.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
adorable.
and it's like as much as we're laughing, and we were so stoked to like have you here, and we're like, oh my god, I can't wait for this because it's like, man, you really put a smile on our faces when we were checking your interviews. I was like, this is gonna be great.
And the beloved memories at the RMAs. I mean, you cannot replace those. I have my own on that photo pit, but watching you work was just uncanny.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and that means.
And the foghorn is there, and we're on to the next question.
That's the love boat rolling in.
Hey.
I guess we're getting to our last couple of questions, but so what's your take on the New York City metal scene and the Philly metal scene? Like, are there any other like? Have you gone like out through the U.S. and seen like the metal scenes out besides the East Coast?
I mean, I have and I have not. In one side of the spectrum, I'm super in the shadows of my grandmother's basement. I'm just obsessed with my own corner of this evil art that I'm creating. But yeah, Philly and New York's great. I like to come here. They have good shows. You know, Philadelphia too. Pretty much all the cool bands that come through New York City come through Philadelphia.
Well,
Whereas
you have a lot of great venues out there too. I mean, you know, you got Trocadero out there.
Yeah.
You got TLA out there. You know, this is phenomenal.
I-
Phenomenal venues. I mean, I don't travel out to Philly like that, but I see a lot of the madness that goes out there from Philadelphia.
And they also have cool, smaller, mid-sized venues. You know, like Kung Fu Necktie.
yes,
That's super fun to play. Great sounding room. Entomb bands like Entomb play there.
Revocation.
Yeah. I'm also proud to say I popped the heavy metal cherry upstairs at Frankie Bradley's, which is it's a burlesque venue. It's a cabaret spot, but we had my album release party there upstairs, and it sounded phenomenal. So, in addition to having this kind of 70s, 80s cocaine chick look to it, with the aesthetic,
Cocaine.
yeah. Gold curtains, it's super fabulous, but it sounds great. So yeah, Philly's got like those cool spots too, and it's got a lot of like really hungry underground bands, you know, that don't play or just getting into like spots like Vitus, like Acolytes, Heavy Temple, Coffin Dust. I mean, they're making waves, and they're super inspiring to be around with those types of bands because you see them and it makes you want to get better and really bring your A game.
Well, that's always good to have in a local scene. I mean, you know, just have that inspiration. And I mean, like, this is the comparison between Philly and New York, at least in my opinion. New York, you know, it's competitive industry-wise because, you know, the heart of the industry is all here. We have all the major record labels, and we have the popcorn done, you know. So I mean, you know, we have all. I mean, we have Universal, we have Roadrunner here, we have E1. Everybody's based over here. So when all the tours come in, it's Industry City. And that's it. And you can tell, like, there's not so much a bridge. There's more like locals are on this side and the industry's on that side. But when they come together and they merge at events, it's bombastic. It's a beautiful thing. And I mean, like for me personally, like when I hear about, you know, the bands out in Philadelphia and about the venues out there, I think it's more homey. It's more family oriented.
Yes, heavy metal, family oriented, Familia.
Yeah, La Familia.
Familiar.
In quotes. That's how I see it. So I mean, it's very family oriented out there. I'm sure of it, but it's still that competitive nature. It's still always going to be that competitive.
I
nature.
think too, like when you go out, some of the craziest shows you can have can be in the suburbs or it can be in like the middle of nowhere. You know, the smaller towns or, you know, even just cities that aren't hubs like New York or DC or Philly. So, and I also grew up in the Pocono Mountains, so
Nice.
that's also pretty grim. But there's some hungry.
The grim mountains of Pocono.
Truly, yes. That's why I moved to Philadelphia. I had to get out of there. But it's nice to visit. It's nice to be evil in the woods
the Philadelphia
sometimes.
Vultures.
Yeah. But yeah, there's hungry bands all over the spot. It's.
I mean, have you being in New York City often? I mean, is there like a local band that you actually like up here?
Typo Negative.
Typo Negative.
Yeah,
There you go.
a local working band that's around. Tragedy. I got to go with Tragedy, man. Those guys always deliver the goods. They're super entertaining.
All right, so my last question, since you filled all the questions today there, Marissa, yeah, you did, which is awesome.
Well, I mean, my last question was going to be, since I might as well ask it now. What is the Necrosexual's music of choice while courting the dead?
Yes, the sexual soundtrack.
Oh boy. I mean, I just recorded a full album for that. So I mean, that was kind of that is the perfect soundtrack for being rock
32
hard in
minutes
the
of
graveyard.
necro lovemaking
Yes.
in thrash and blackened form.
It's truly inspired by true events. in some
Inspired by
cases.
But cue the Law and Order sound right there. That's it.
But, yeah, I mean, I right now I've been on a big Finnish death metal kick thanks to my drummer Mike Chury. So Demolich, Depravity, some pretty obscure dudes from the 90s. Although Demolich is coming to the East Coast in May, so I'm super excited about that. Hoping to interview the frontman.
You're gonna catch him at a venue very soon, then.
Yeah, they're doing Vitus.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna catch him at Vitus.
Yeah, so that should be pretty sick. And then I also like soul music, so some Marvin Gaye, some Curtis Mayfield, some
And
dad
Yanni.
rock, yeah, some Yanni,
Some Yanni.
some Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd. So I try to be a Renaissance school. I love heavy music, and there's a lot of heavy music, but you have to sometimes temper it with the other outside elements. I think that makes your music stronger too. It
Of
sound
course.
like your own thing, rather than just inbreeding recessive traits.
Yeah, I'm just picturing Marvin Gaye, Al Green, and Gladys Knight and the Pips all in corpse paint now because of this guy right over here. It's very obtuse, but I could dig it.
I could dig that. That'd
Yeah.
be great if they put out a black metal album.
Well, most of them are dead,
Yeah.
except Gladys Knight. Well, is she? No, she's alive. No, wait, is she?
Not sure.
That's unknown. You should know.
Yeah.
You have to court your lovers down there in hell. We've got to figure this one out, Necrosexual.
I mean, Rob Halford was talking about how he wants to make a black metal album with Behemoth. And I'm like,
yeah.
oh, if you did like a black metal album with Gladys Knight, that'd be tight. Because
Rob
I mean, a lot
Halford,
of Judas
Gladys
Priest,
Knight.
yeah.
Spin Gladys Knight backwards.
I command you in the name of Lucifer to spread the blood of the innocent.
So I'm guessing now, I think this meeting's adjourned.
I'm still waiting for that foghorn, and then we're done.
The popcorn has to be completed.
Yeah. But everyone, thanks for joining us with the Necrosexual. Check
Yeah,
out
thank
Grim
you.
One, and he will return to New York City if we can help it.
And thank you guys for going one-on-one with the Grim One. I hope you get to see me in action at some point.
We will, but not burlesque.
Yes, the musical.
Yeah, I don't know if we're ready for.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're ready for the
The
boylesque.
Necrosexual bandits of the Matrix. You just have to experience it to truly understand. Burlesque, I'll tell you, it's like a train wreck.
Oh, well, definitely, we'll be keeping tabs on you for sure for that.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right, raise the horns of death.
Unite. Over and out. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Necro out.